We've got an NBA draft reaction video here. ESPN put out their latest 2-round NBA mock draft following March Madness. The Heat had 2 selections. Obviously, they are currently projected to have one in the lottery and one in the late lottery. We'll look at where those picks were in this draft and who they ultimately selected. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. But this is why you subscribe to the channel, because this mock draft was on ESPN Plus. And you have to pay $120 a year to be subscribed to ESPN Plus. Well, here at the Heat Report, we put out completely free content, live shows, videos in between, and mock drafts, mock draft reactions. $0 a year. We go live all the time. Hit that sub button. All right, so in this NBA mock draft, the Heat were picking 11th and 23rd. Obviously, they're projected to miss the playoffs, which means they'd have their lottery pick, which sits at number 11 right now. No lottery movement. And then they currently have the Warriors pick in 2025 as well, which sits at 23rd overall. And with the 11th pick in the mock draft, the ESPN crew of Jeremy Woo and Jonatha Givony had the Miami Heat going with a center out of Maryland, Derik Queen. And this raised a lot of eyebrows for me because I love Derik Queen as a prospect, but I am just not sold on the fit of Queen in Miami. Let's see what Jeremy Woo, who made the selection for the Heat in this mock draft, said about Queen to the Heat. He established himself as the most offensively gifted big in this draft class, giving NBA teams a lot to think about with his ability to handle, pass, and create mismatches, along with his flashes of shooting potential. His motor on the defensive end and on the glass were often questionable, something Queen will have to answer for in the pre-draft process as teams get to know him. Better effort is within his control, and he can adjust, making him a worthwhile lottery candidate. The Heat have been open to swinging big on talent, and Queen could benefit from landing in Miami, an organization that could get the most of him. Now, listen, I'll dive into Queen as a prospect more here in just a second. I love Derik Queen. I think he's going to be a very talented big man in the NBA and make a team very happy. I just don't understand why that team would be the Miami Heat. You could look at this roster and say it needs a lot of things. Talent is one of them. Queen has talent. But why are you drafting in the top 14 a player that would be at best playing 13, 14 minutes a game behind Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo? Yeah, the Heat need a backup center on this roster behind Ware as Bam makes the transition to a 4/wing player. But Queen being picked in the top 14 makes no sense. Like, the talent is there. There's no disputing that. He had a terrific freshman season for Maryland and led them to the Sweet 16, had that game winner in the round of 32 against Colorado State. He averaged 16 and a half and 9 boards, had a steal and block a game as well for Maryland. Like, the player is very, very good. It just, to me, and I will continue to say it, makes not a lot of sense. Now, if you told me the Heat traded Kel'el Ware and some capital to get a player like a Trae Young, a player like Kevin Durant on the roster, but maintained their lottery pick and then took Derik Queen, okay, I could see that. Queen and Bam in the front court. You traded Ware and pick for some of this other point guard or wing player. Okay, sure. But just taking Queen with Ware and Bam on the roster, it makes no sense to me. But be honest, would you draft Derik Queen? The guy's a talented player. He can do it all. Stuff the stat sheet. Type D for draft, type P for pass. Like I've mentioned multiple times, I probably wouldn't, despite really liking the player. As I said, love him as a prospect. I mean, I already know that I have him as my number 2 big behind Kaman Malawach. I have him as a top 10 NBA draft prospect on my big board. The fit and the need for Miami just isn't there. And in this ESPN mock draft, Agor Demen, the guard from BYU, went the selection after Miami to the Chicago Bulls at number 12. Like, if you told me both these players, Demen and Queen, were on the board, I have Queen as a better prospect, but I would rather go with Agor Demen due to the fact he is a natural point guard at 6'9", who is an excellent playmaker. There's questions about his athleticism and shooting, but that fit for Miami and need is much more apparent than Derik Queen. Queen is a solid player who's got good measurables. 6'10", 7'1". The weight for him is a little bit of a concern, a little bit of a bigger player, but he's still got good athleticism to him. It's not like he's a poor athlete at 246. So he is going to work in the NBA. And when you look at the scouting report for Queen, at least in my opinion, the positives on him outweigh the negatives. They do. He's got a great back to the basket game. He's got excellent footwork. He can beat you in the mid post facing up and using his handle and good quick first step to beat you off the dribble to the rim, or he could beat you just working in the low block on the back to the basket. He's got a great handle, and he's got really excellent touch around the rim, which tells you that he might be able to be a good shooter in the NBA. But one of the negatives on him is that there is no guarantee for his ability to shoot. He shot 20% from three this past year, did shoot 76% from the free throw line, which tells you that he is able to shoot at least to some capacity. So the ability for him to increase his range and shoot from three, it's there. There's just no guarantee. And I do like his size, but that size of 6'10", 246 is also limit him athletically. Like, he's not above the rim center. He's a below the rim guy. He can dunk, but he's a below the rim guy. I like him and Bam together, but why are you once again drafting him to be a backup center to Kelowna, Ware, and Bam Adebayo? It just, to me, unfortunately makes no sense. We'll get to the second pick for the Miami Heat here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy sports platform that I play every single day. All you do is pick more or less on two or more player stat projections for a chance to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You could actually now customize your picks to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Yes, you heard that correctly. They were the creators of the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. You can mix player projections from different sports like basketball, baseball, hockey, esports, golf, and much more. They have weekly promotions like Flex Friday, Taco Tuesday to make playing daily fantasy so much fun. You can do daily. You can also do season long. I did a season long entry for the association. Did not go my way, folks. Adebayo ended up averaging less than 10 rebounds a game this season. The only one I got right, Jalen Brunson. He did average more than 6.8 assists, but both Ricochet went more and Adebayo went less, which were opposite of my selections. Unfortunate loss for me there. But join me and the millions of others playing Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's transition over to the late first round, the Warriors selection that Miami owns. 23rd pick. ESPN has Miami going with the Ratiopharm Ulm guard, Ben Saraf, who is a very fascinating prospect who, at first glance, I wasn't very in on Saraf when I did my initial first look at all these prospects over the last 2 months. But as time has gone on, I watched some more highlights before filming this video and went through more of his film. I kind of bought in a little bit more than I was in the past. He's got decent size for a point guard. And this is a true point guard, so that he get a true point guard and a center in this mock draft. 6'5", wingspan is a plus at 6'7.5". He's got decent weight to him as well after looking like a very frail guard prior to this past season for Ratiopharm, 200 pounds. And the shooting splits are not great, but in the 16 games he played for Ratiopharm, he did average 13 points and nearly 5 assists per game. Like I mentioned, the shooting splits for Saraf were not good. 42% from the field and 22% from three is very, very concerning. But I'll explain why I'm not as concerned on the shooting splits in just a second. But I did want to go over what Jonatha Givony from ESPN said, because he made the selection at 23 for Miami, saying that Saraf went through a rough patch in February and early March, but he is coming off two of his best games of the season for Ulm, rediscovering his jumper and rekindling the playmaking creativity that made him a highly regarded prospect earlier in the season. With Ulm in the home stretch of its regular season and important games approaching in the German League playoffs, NBA teams will be shifting more attention his way. A team such as Miami, which might want to add a shot creator, could be interested in Saraf's size, youth, creativity, and feel for the game alongside his toughness. And as I mentioned, I was out on him earlier. I'm kind of intrigued on Saraf now. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's a certain NBA player that played for Miami that he kind of reminds me of. And we'll get to what and who that is here in just a second. But I did want to go over my scouting report on Saraf. positives, the negatives. I think he's got good size for a true point guard. I mentioned it, 6'5" with a 6'7.5" wingspan. In today's modern NBA, yeah, there are still some elite smaller guards like Steph Curry, Trae Young, John Morant, all 6'2", 6'3", and below. But this positional versatility is required in the NBA now. And Saraf at 6'5" has that. He knows how to get to his spots. When I constantly watch his film, most of his buckets are coming in the mid-range, in the paint, where he's working off a pick and roll, knows how to snake dribble, take a guy, get him on his hip, get him on his back, and then create space dribble into a little mid-range shot from 10 to 12 feet. And that also leads to his solid playmaking ability in the pick and roll as well. So I like some of those things from Saraf in the half-court offense. Now, the negatives on him is that he has not been a consistent three-point shooter this past year. You saw he shot 22% from beyond the arc, and he is a little bit of a limited athlete in terms of his quick first step, his explosiveness off the ground vertically. There's just not a lot there that you'll love, but he does have a lot of craftiness to his game. And I did kind of throw out this little foreshadowing, if you will. And maybe it's lazy because he's a left-handed point guard coming from overseas. But when I watch him work, I randomly get a lot of thoughts of Goran Dragic. I do. I'm sorry. It's probably lazy. But when I watch him kind of snake dribble through the paint, get his defender, space dribble into a mid-range 12-foot elbow jump shot where he has a very high release point, by the way, something I do like on Saraf. It looks like Goran. He does. And even off his catch-and-shoot threes, he kind of has the same footwork and shot form as Goran Dragic. Like, I don't want to be the lazy guy, lefty-to-lefty comparison, but they move very similarly. Both had a limited athletic profile. Saraf's got much better size than Dragic does, but if Saraf's able to become even 70% of Goran Dragic in the NBA, that would be a home run pick at 23. So he's certainly someone I am going to continue to keep my eye on throughout this draft process, as Miami will almost guaranteed or will basically have a pick anywhere between 18 and 23 thanks to the Golden State Warriors. All right, so this Heat ESPN NBA mock draft had the Heat going Derik Queen, Maryland center at pick number 11, and then Ben Saraf, the guard from Ratiopharm and Israel at pick number 23. Grade this mock draft. If you were the Heat 2 months from now and this is how things shook out in late June, how would you feel A, B, C, D, or F? Now, even though I was very complimentary of Ben Saraf, I think this Heat ESPN mock draft that landed up Derik Queen at 11 and Ben Saraf at 23 ultimately grades out at a C-. Derik Queen is a fantastic prospect, but I do not think the Heat would be smart to use a pick in the lottery on a center that would be backing up Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo. I would much rather go after a highly talented guard like Igor Demen. And although Ben Saraf intrigues me at 23, if you drafted a guy like Demen in the lottery and then paired that up with a backup center like Janai Broome or Thomas Sorber at 23, or maybe went to a wing, Nick Clifford is an option as well, that would much more benefit this Heat roster in the 25-26 season than going with Ben Saraf and Derik Queen like they did in this latest ESPN mock draft. And that will do it for this episode of the Heat Report. Make sure you are subscribed and join us tomorrow, by the way, because we'll be live for the Heat's final game of the season between Miami and Washington. And then we will have a video after that game on where everything stood with the draft standings, the play-in. We'll have you all covered on everything surrounding the Miami Heat, both tomorrow and in the offseason. So subscribe today.